We now turn to Albany, where Governor Cuomo is pushing for ethics reform. I know that's not breaking news, but it's what the governor has referred to as the single toughest issue facing Albany. We saw the U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara bring down longtime Assembly Speaker Shelley Silver to this point, who was indicted, as you remember, in federal corruption charges. Governor, he's pushing for a series of proposals to revamp the state's ethics laws, as well as require lawmakers to disclose more about their outside income. Cuomo's even threatened to shut down the government if lawmakers fail to take action on his budget.
Either pass my budget or shut down the government. As you recall, President Clinton had a fundamental disagreement with Speaker Gingrich, and that's what it came to. Either pass the budget or shut down the government, and they shut down the government. I was there. It was ugly. But sometimes ugly is necessary. Change is disruptive, and transformative change is highly disruptive. And make no mistake, this will be highly disruptive. So I will not sign a budget that does not have an ethics plan as outlined in my proposal that addresses the current problems in the system.
Now, while the governor is asking lawmakers to disclose more information about their outside income, Republicans in the state Senate, they put together a draft legislation of their own calling for Governor Cuomo's girlfriend, celebrity chef Sandra Lee, to disclose her income. Times reporting that the governor's office responded in part by suggesting that if Ms. Lee had to reveal her income, now listen carefully for this, so should the paramours of married state legislators. Translation for any of you unfamiliar with that language, that means for the married lawmakers out there, their girlfriends have to also, their incomes be listed as well. So trust me, this is not going over well. All right, now.
Or boyfriends.
What?
Or boyfriends.
Or boyfriends, I'm sorry. Thank you. Let's go from there.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
It could be a female lawmaker.
Okay. Do you think, Richard, the biggest, obviously it's getting even nastier than it was before, is that they see hypocrisy on the part of the governor, the lawmakers here, or is it that, wait a minute, now you're getting...
It's not the girlfriend hypocrisy.
Our job was always supposed to be part-time. We don't make a ton of money, relatively speaking. All of a sudden now, the scrutiny you're trying to put not just on our outside income, but also a family, that's a bridge too far. Which is it? They don't like the messenger or the message?
Well, they don't like either one, but the heart of it isn't the girlfriend stuff, and it isn't the fact that they ought to look at the disclosure laws. They need looking at. It's the governor's insistence that only earned income, only if you have a job do you have to disclose. He just pulled down a $700,000 contract from Rupert Murdoch and News Corp.
For the book.
For the book. If there are going to be limits on outside income, why should a guy making...
Is it limits or transparency?
Both. That's what that's the road. That's the discussion they're in. The governor is not wrong, but he's just selecting out the legislature and pretending that there are no problems in the executive branch. Two of the last three governors in the state of New York had major ethical problems. The governor of Connecticut was governor of Jersey. If you're going to be for ethics, then the ethical standards ought to apply to everybody. By choosing just to focus on the legislature, the governor has done something that may be politically shrewd, but will come back to bite him.
So, Dominic, take out legitimate or otherwise the complaints and say, wait a minute, why are you having us play a separate set of rules in yourself? And also, you're the guy who shut down Moreland. You're the guy who... you've covered enough here. Is the concern by some, for example, family members have worked on campaign websites, right? Some legitimate, some where you say, time out. Why is 35 grand going to this person when they work 5 hours? And then some of the charities that have been set up where family members also work on, spouses or otherwise. Again, some legitimate, some very questionable. Is that what's also here of concern to some folks? Forget it's the governor saying it. It's also what all of a sudden they got to disclose?
Yes, but I think most would agree with Mr. Brodsky, and I hate to admit that tonight I agree with him.
You're doing very well tonight.
I'm doing very well tonight?
Yes.
I hate to admit it, Richard, but if you're going to close all the doors, close all of them, including, and we emphasize here, the executive branch as well. Because when Mr. Brodsky points out the $700,000 advance for the book, Oh, by the way, News Corp got a huge tax break that they were looking for. So it's all a gimmick, it's all a scheme, and Brodsky, unfortunately, is right.
But would you say, Scott, that the general public, one of your constituents in Rockland's going to say, you know what, I want to know if this guy's an attorney on the side, or if this guy's doing X on the side as a side job, legitimate. I should know his clients, because I should know here if any of them are getting any preferential treatment by the state, or if any of them are getting fast-tracked where they're eligible for contracts or whatever else. I think the public wants to know that, even more than they do now.
I think they want to know it, and they can't know it, and that's the root of the problem. And I think there are ways to resolve this in transparency and conflict rules and the way you handle it and what you expose to the public. But what I have troubles with is, in addition to the gentleman, the executive branch not really being included, is the way he's handling this. This is not a budget item. This is a major policy change that should be debated fully with the executive and the legislative leaders, not a demand by the governor, but debated and carefully plotted out as to exactly how you deal with a transparency issue. I mean, that's the only, by the way, that's good for the public because it gives us an opportunity to weigh in on the various elements that might be part of that policy. To throw it out and say, you know, do it or there's no budget, it's just...
He hit on the point I was going to ask you, Andrew, which is, well, I think it's good theater and good politics. What's the thing we were talking about last segment? Republicans were willing to shut down DHS if they didn't get immigration folded into it. In effect, he's holding hostage here something for a policy move he wants, albeit I think a much more popular one than the game the Republicans are playing on the Hill.
I think he's trying to get ahead of a movement that's going to happen whether he's the leader of it or not. I mean, there's going to be some measure of ethics reform that passes through Albany just because there's so much of a stain on the place right now. So is it Cuomo's package? Is it the Assembly's package?
Go
Is
back
it
to
the
what Richard
state Senate
said,
package?
because he put his finger right on it. If it's a bad thing to link immigration reform and funding of DHS, which I think it is, why is it a good thing to link?
I'm not saying
well,
it
wait,
is.
I'm not finished.
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is like I have, like just the Redhoff rule. I have two things to say. When you listen to the editorial boards, like the New York Times, they disparage the Congress for the linkage, but they love it when Cuomo does it. There is one of the problems we've had in this is that the debate in Albany has been secretive and inadequate. And Scott is exactly right that the way to handle this is to get everybody's proposals out there, don't foreclose the debate, and again, let the debate happen, and then if people don't vote for the right things, they can be held responsible. But for now, this linkage business is at the core of the breakdown of the system.
He just remember he went first, but I agree with Brodsky.
You know, there's a lot of that tonight, but everyone seems like reluctant to admit it.
No, we've disagreed earlier in the show.
Do not bloviate. When we come back here, I don't often agree with Kurt Schilling, but in this case, I think he spoke for a whole lot of people today who are pretty sick of the Twitter trolls. We're going to tell you about a story that involves his daughter and a father fighting back.